So the first thing, of course, is where do you find residencies? If you're hearing about these residencies, where can you actually find them? And what I want to tell you is, some of you know, we've built out an incredible array of resources at the career site. So if you go to careercenter.risi.edu, and another thing to keep in mind tonight, we're going to put a PDF into the chat that has links to everything I'm showing you. So you'll be able to refer to those links after the presentation tonight as well. So at the career site, you go to artist resources, and then right there, you'll see artist residencies. Now, one of the factors on this page is there's multiple directories that you can use to find residencies throughout the United States and throughout the world. One of those that's incredibly valuable to you is Artist Communities Alliance. The Artist Communities Alliance, and this is kind of a surprise for a lot of people, is actually based in Providence. Their headquarters and offices are in Providence, which is really cool, not far from RISD. This site alone is going to lead you to numerous residencies in the United States and throughout the world. And their directory is where you're going to find a lot of that. So when you're in the directory, you can search, as with many searches, by multiple filters. And a very common one is you might find that you want to find a residency in a specific state if you're looking in, say, the United States. So in this case, just to show an example, we did New York. When you do that filter, you are going to find a lot of residencies in New York. It is a state that has quite a few. And when you click on a specific residency listing, in this case, the Art Center at Governor's Island, it will lead you to a profile about the residency, and then, of course, a link to the actual residency program. So it's got great information at the Artist Communities Alliance site, but then you're going to get even more information, of course, directly through the website. So in this case, this starts to address things that you need to be thinking about. The Art Center at Governor's Island, which is the residency, is in a very urban environment. It's right, in essence, in the heart of New York City, and that can be a factor in part of your decision-making. And you can look at multiple factors. What kind of facilities, studio spaces available? Are there living arrangements, et cetera? Now, just to show, there are many contrasts. So that was an urban environment. But if we go back to the New York list, in this case, there's the Wassaic Project. Wassaic Project is a great example in upstate New York because it's in a rural community as opposed to Governor's Island, if you're seeking that. And we're really fond of Wassaic Project because the Wassaic Project actually was founded by RISD alumni from the painting department and other departments at RISD. In fact, these are the founders, Eve, Bowie, and Jeff, who founded and are still there running the residency. And this is an example, again, on the kind of facilities you want. A lot of this is rural facilities and farm buildings, and that's a very different setting than Governor's Island. So these are factors to keep in mind. Now, at the Artist Communities Alliance directory, there's a category called Residency Priority, which is kind of unique. And just as an example, here you can see we selected priority given to BIPOC artists. So if you are a BIPOC artist looking for residencies that, again, give priority to BIPOC artists, you can actually filter that. And in this case, when I did the search, it found Kindred Creative Residence in Argo Forest. This is in the northern area of Vermont. And in this case, it's another residency that puts you in an extremely beautiful environment, natural environment in the upper areas of Vermont. Also, many of you are going to search by your discipline. So if you're in sculpture, you're often going to want to find residencies that support sculptors, which often means also that the facilities support you as a sculptor. So in this case, did a search by sculpture, found a lot of residencies. In this case, I'm highlighting Art Omi. And I always forget, Joanne and Francine, is it Art Omai or Art Omi? Do you either?
Art Omai.
Omai, okay. Thank you for the clarification because I wanted to get that right. And it's actually a better way to say it because Art Omai, I'm at this residency because as you can see, there are 120 acres of a sculpture and architecture park, besides offering 5 distinct residencies. So, there's a lot of scope here for their environment. And by having that kind of environment, you can often build big things. So if you're a sculptor, you can build things to scale in this environment. Some facilities, you might have to work smaller. So I've known sculptors who've gone to residencies and done really small work, but they really want every other factor of the residency. Okay. And something you're going to hear tonight, a lot of these programs might have their own newsletter. And by getting on the newsletter, you can learn about, open calls when residency deadlines are approaching, special features of the residency. So the Artist Communities Alliance has its own newsletter. And I got to tell you, if you're interested in residencies, absolutely sign up for this newsletter. You can do so right from their main page, which you can see right here. In the links that I included, there is a link directly to the newsletter. But what it does is it does a monthly update to you, talking about up-and-coming residency deadlines. They also will feature new residencies, because there are new residencies that come on board, and also special circumstances and events. So a really valuable resource to you, and definitely sign up for that newsletter. There are, again, a number of other directories, and we won't go through all of them, but a very good global directory is Res Artis. And one of the cool things set up with Res Artis is that you can literally pull up maps, which is kind of fascinating. So when you're at the site, in this case, I was searching the Americas, and with a focus on South America, finding residencies in South America. So in doing so, I click on that. I can pan in and out, of these maps. And in this case, I was focused more in Brazil, because I want to find a residency in Brazil. And what this also can show you is how many residencies are in a country. Sometimes there are only a few. In other cases, there are lots of residencies. So if you want to be in a specific country, this can really kind of help guide you to where there are more residencies, or you just know there are fewer residencies in that country. So as I searched Brazil, I came across Curator. And Curator is a wonderful residency. And this, again, is what kind of environment do you want? In this case, not only will you be in another country, but you'll be in this really beautiful environment where Curator is based, which looks really wonderful. And then you also want to consider, again, what are the offerings? What are the programs? What are the support systems at the residency? For instance, Curator does a program. They had a special project, the 4 Elements Festival. So it's not sometimes just the residency. There can be festivals and events connected to these residency locations. And just to show the contrast, I then went to Europe, and you can see, pulling up the European map at Res Artis, produced lots of residencies scattered all throughout Europe. For myself, I was just in Ireland this past summer, so I was like, I wonder what's in Ireland. So I went to Ireland, and one of the ones I found was Watershed. And Watershed is located in Galway, in another incredibly beautiful area. And you live kind of in this house, and you have these facilities. At a lot of these residency sites, you're also going to be able to see often who the past residents have been and the kind of work they've done. So this can also give you a flavor for the kind of work you might produce there, or who your peers might be in the residency program. So every website's going to be different, but these are some of the factors you might find. And I love this one, speaking of directories, because I think so few people know about this, but the National Park Service in the United States, for our national parks, offers a whole bunch of residencies. So this, I think, comes as a big surprise. Once again, they too have a map where you can see that there are residencies all across the United States. And these are amazing, like this one right here, the Hawaii Volcanoes National Park Residency. So if you love volcanoes, there's a residency for you to do this. Or, and this one, the Chaco Culture National Historical Park is just an amazing site that you will have a residency at. So what a great, almost hidden secret, and really encourage you to explore this, especially if you have a love of the national parks, which are amazing. check these out as well. And we, again, have the link in our PDF. And I just want to expand a little bit further that there are really a broad array of residency choices. So here are just some different flavors for other residencies. The Santa Fe Art Institute does a program specific on themed residencies. So what they do is they'll do one on food. They'll do one on water rights. They did one on truth, which is really fascinating in our current society and culture. And their current one is on sovereignty and the concept of sovereignty. What this means is if you want to be part of the residency, your work has to address the theme when you apply. And then you're going to be in a cohort of people who are all addressing that theme, which is really amazing. So there are these themed residencies, and one of the most prominent is the Santa Fe Art Institute. Another really interesting one is a studio in the woods. So there are lots of environmental residencies set in beautiful natural areas. You're going to see one of those with iPark, which is just stunning. But a studio in the woods is actually connected to a university. There are those as well, in this case, Tulane University. So sometimes you can bear benefit of the residency and its connections back to another institution, and this would be Tulane. Speaking of institutions, some of them are connected to cultural centers. So this is the Asia Cultural Center based in Korea. And so not only do they offer residencies, but you also could bear benefit again to everything else that that culture center is offering. But another one, the Schuylkill Center for Environmental Education is another great example. They're devoted to the environment, land stewardship, again, a natural environment, but they have a residency and they also have an environmental art program. So again, as you consider them, and I hope you're seeing, there's just so many different kinds of residencies. And then this one is very special. This is Elsewhere Studios. And what's very unique, they're based in Colorado, is with Elsewhere, it's almost like a living, breathing art project that you are having your residency within and contributing to. And I think that's just so cool. The building is mighty fine looking. And then you can see that even the interior has this very whimsical quality. So for each of you, you're going to feel like, is this right for me? Or, oh my goodness, this exists? I can't believe it. And that's going to help to guide you to the right residency experience. Okay, now, on top of all of that, the Career Center over many years has been formulating partnerships with several residency programs. So I want to show you some of those, especially as RISD students. And if you become recent alumni, you can take advantage of these. You again can find all this information at the career site. One of our partnerships is with Anderson Ranch. So with Anderson Ranch, which is also located in Colorado, a really amazing residency with lots of different disciplines that it addresses. The facilities are quite incredible at Anderson Ranch. So you can do furniture, you can do metal, and you can do ceramics, and it just goes on, including painting and printmaking and other areas as well. Because of the partnership we've had quite a few RISD students and recent graduates benefit from Anderson Ranch. Ray Laundress just graduated recently. Some of you might know he was the curator of RISD's first Black Biennial, which was amazing. And Ray was one of the benefits of the Career Center partnership and sponsorship at Anderson Ranch. And there's a great video of Ray at Anderson Ranch's website. So in this one, you when you're graduating, you can apply for the fall and spring residencies. If you're accepted and selected, Anderson Ranch will cover half of your cost and the Career Center will cover the other half, and you go free to the program. Another of the really prominent residencies is Skowhegan. Skowhegan is located in Maine. It is a really spectacular residency. Again, amazing facilities at Skowhegan. It's pretty much like a mini school in many ways. And at Skowhegan, they also bring in really prominent artists who are part of the summer experience at Skowhegan. And this can make for amazing connections and incredible lectures during the summer. Skowhegan, like many residencies, has helped to launch careers for fine artists as well. And we're very fortunate to have a partnership with Skowhegan. So again, if you're accepted to Skowhegan, the Career Center covers half, and Skowhegan covers half of your participation. Another residency in Maine is the Monson Arts Design Residency. This one too is fully funded, in this case by Monson Arts. And there are 2 RISD positions in the residency. It is more design focused. The residency itself is located right near Mount Katahdin, which is incredible, up in the Millinocket area of Maine. And in this residency, because it has more of a design focus, there's a lot of access for woodworking, furniture, sculpture, industrial design, but still the fine arts as well in the residency program. And then finally, we have a partnership with the Fine Arts Work Center on Cape Cod in Provincetown, another really incredible location and a really highly regarded residency opportunity. In this case, though, it's a workshop. So you will be funded for a workshop, again, split between the Fine Arts Work Center and RISD. And the array of people who come in and offer workshops in the summer is just spectacular. So that is another opportunity for RISD students and alumni. And then finally, after you've seen all of these amazing residency opportunities, how do you choose a residency that's right for you? The Alliance of the Artist Communities Alliance has a really terrific page on this, but I want to cover just a few of the things for you to think about. So we're going to run through these kind of quickly, and again, they'll be part of the recorded presentation, but these are really important factors to consider. First of all, very simply, what do you expect or want from the residency experience as you look for it and search? Another important factor is, what is your working style? Because that can really impact, again, what the residency offers you, and does it fit your working style? That in turn often relates very directly to facilities. What kind of facilities might you need? And what kind of equipment might you need to satisfy the work you want to produce? Another factor is some people want to just be focused on their own work, and there are many residencies that offer that. And then there are residencies that really offer community and lots of community engagement and getting together. So again, do you want lots of interaction in community, or do you want to be more focused and isolated? That's an important factor. You've already been hearing, where do you want to be geographically? What state do you want to be in? What country do you want to be in? That, as you see, can be well served by these directories and filters. The next aspect, I think, which is quite apparent, what kind of environment? Do you want to be an urban environment for residency? Do you want rural? Do you want nature? Those are important factors to consider. What time of year? You know, truth be known, a lot of residencies happen in the summer. So that also makes it very competitive, because a lot of people are applying for summer residencies. There are a number of residency programs that are open year-round. So you might find actually less competition in fall and spring than you might for summer. But if your only time to do this is summer, then that's where you're going to be focused. Another factor is length of stay. There are very short residencies, you know, that might be a matter of a week, and then or even shorter. And then there are residencies that could be a year long or longer. So you got to think about your length of stay. We've already talked about the workspace, but also the living space. Are there living quarters and such that are being offered? And then, of course, the really important factor is the cost of the residency, what you can afford, what scholarships are provided, and what kind of funding. And that varies across many residencies, although in the United States, many of the residencies are subsidized with other support and grants. So you are often getting some form of funding one way or another. Not all of them, but many of them have that. Also, alumni networks. Some residencies are really focused on supporting their, people who come out of their residency in an alumni network or other support systems. And then finally, are there other resources? Are there museums nearby, collections, and other aspects for research? And then bringing this back to cost and the support you receive. Once again, the Artist Communities Alliance has great resources. They even have a form, a worksheet at the site that you can be so helpful to you to fill out to really gauge your needs during the residency. So consider using that link. But here are some factors, and some of these overlap with what we just said. What are the final costs to you after you separate out the scholarship and the funding? So you have to consider that and what you can afford. Some residencies will offer you an additional stipend in addition to the scholarship you receive. So you need to look to that. Can you work at some of the residencies? There are residency programs that offer work in exchange for the residency experience. Oxbow, for instance, in its summer fellowship, has a work arrangement for its fellows in their residency opportunity. Is housing provided? Because if it isn't, you have to make housing arrangements. And then, of course, are meals provided? I can tell you, and I'm sure Joanne and Francine might confirm, that there are many residencies that have amazing food, like are known for their food, have great chefs. And that's not to mean that one that doesn't offer food isn't one to consider, but there are residencies that are quite well known for their food as well. Do you have individual studio space, or is it shared with others? Back to your working style. What is your access to equipment facilities we talked about, but also access to studio techs and other artists? Is there support that way? People who can assist you with your work at the residency? Are there places to exhibit your work that you're making at the residency? And are there opportunities also for critique of your work or community exchange? And then finally, is there also access to documenting your work? So if you're making work, might you be documenting it at the residency? And once again, are there alumni networks and support systems? And then finally, and concluding my portion, applying to residencies. We have linked a really terrific article on applying for artist residencies and grants, both at our website and in the resources. And I'm going to take these areas directly from the article. So I've taken them directly from this article. And I think they're really valuable for almost everything. Do your research. Really, really understand what you're getting into and what's available. We've been talking about that. Make sure that you can do it and that you're qualified. Sometimes a residency might look great, but you're actually not qualified for it yet. One thing I want to stress to all of you, there are so many residencies that are available to you as students or as emerging artists. And Joanne and Francine are going to note that as well. And that's important because sometimes you might think that the residencies are more focused on mid-career artists or established artists, and they can be, but they're also available to you. So understand again what you can do and are you qualified. Also make sure it's worth it. Some of them might, one that is overseas or in another country might just be too expensive in the end, and you might not get the same kind of funding that you would in the States, for instance. So you have to look into that. This is a really critical one. Don't miss their deadline. This is like applying for grants. I must say, I've seen it firsthand. A lot of creatives will wait to the last minute and apply at the very last minute. It's not a myth. It is a fact. I've watched it. So what I will tell you is bluff yourself. Literally put a sticky note up that put it on your refrigerator, put it anywhere, and put a deadline that's like days before or a week before, and fool yourself so that you really get everything together and get it in by the deadline. Because there's nothing worse than wanting this badly and then missing a deadline if there's not leeway. Make sure your work looks good. This is really critical for residencies that require work in the application. Your work has to be shot well and be professionally presented, and that's really important. And this is true of all grant applications too. And then when you are applying, really read the details of the application. How many words are allowed in the text in a response? And are you really answering their questions in the application? When you do answer the questions, be concise, be clear, be sharp. And this is funny, it says be interesting in the article. And I think that what that means is, what are you providing as a creative that's unique to you, that separates you from other people, that really sets you apart? So talk about that as well. And then finally, as you make an application, draft it, get feedback on it, make revisions, review it, and then submit it. So go through multiple phases. And this is the biggie to end. Don't be discouraged by rejection. There is a lot sometimes of applicants to these opportunities. They're wonderful places, but you've got to just keep applying. Also, there can be changes in jurors year to year, or changes in application processes. So again, don't be discouraged, keep applying, and it's going to really help you gain a residency opportunity. So that is the end of my portion of the program. And I hope that gave you a really good grounding and overview about what residencies are about, the range of residencies, and how to approach them. And now I'm going to turn it over to Joanne, who's going to talk about iPark.
Hello, everyone. My name is Joanne Paradis. I am one of the co-founders of iPark. Thank you, Kevin and Karen and Jason, and to Francine that we're all together this evening. So yes, as Kevin mentioned, we are very close to your RISD campus, a little over an hour. We are located in a very rural part of Connecticut. We are situated on a 450-acre parcel of land that we are also stewarding as well. And the way that our program operates is, as Kevin had described, very, very important to not miss our deadline, which I put up in the chat. And I am going to encourage any students who are interested in applying to sign up for our mailing list. And as soon as the call goes out, you'll receive that announcement. And it is also wise, yes, not to wait 2 days before the deadline, because it does take a bit of time to fill out the application. And one of the most important factors is that you read the instructions for your discipline and upload your images that best represent your work. So an iPark residency, typically our season begins in May. And so there is a spring session, there are several summer sessions, and then there are several fall sessions. And Kevin is absolutely correct. The summer sessions at iPark are the most popular in terms of, everyone has most of the time during the summer. But if you are graduating next spring, our open call will go out next month in December. And we are going to be moving our deadline from the middle of January into February. So you'll have a good opportunity to craft an application. And the other important factor for applying is you also will let us know which session you're available for. So that's important. So what is a iPark residency like? Typically, there are 6 to 8 artists. We are a multidisciplinary program. So you would be programmed with several visual artists, a composer, someone from the creative writing discipline, a writer or a poet, landscape architect, garden designer, ecological designer, and then what we call new media, which encompasses all of the moving image and the film arts. Core of our program is our general residency, and that is where the individuals come together in either a 6, 7, or 8 person cohort. And the residency offering that we have it's fully funded. So there is no cost for you to participate. You simply have to make an application. There is a modest application fee. And then you are responsible for your travel to us and then back home, wherever that is. Other than that, you would bring, your own Materials, we have lots of materials on our campus. We actually, when we decommission work that's been installed on the land and on the trails, it gets incorporated into our boneyard, which we lovingly call the junk trail. But it is not junk. It's truly a treasure trove for artists to make work. So we are always repurposing our artwork and into new pieces, which, you know, that is something we really enjoy supporting. We do offer us 2 special programs, an environmental art biennale that we typically host in odd years, and then a special music residency, which brings an ensemble and 5 international composers together, which typically was offered in even years. So there are special programs that you also could apply to as well. So in terms of the living studio, what's available, you will have a private bedroom. You will share a bathroom with one other artist, and then you will be programmed into a studio based on your discipline and then your project. So we typically make the studio assignments after the cohort has been scheduled together, and we understand what it is that you're thinking about working on while you're with us. As Kevin mentioned, you know, our residencies are 4 weeks. We are thinking about programming a 2-week session because there are individuals who don't have the luxury of taking a whole month off from, you know, life, work, etc. So we're just finalizing what the calendar for 2024 will look like. So before we announce the open call, we will publish that calendar in conjunction. Other offerings of the program, we do have great food. We provide really all the food for the residency experience. We also have a chef that comes in 5 evenings a week. So from Monday through Friday, you don't even have to think about, you know, preparing dinner. You are responsible for preparing your own breakfast and your own lunch. But then on the weekends, it's a collegial environment where typically 2 of our artists will pair up and they will prepare usually their favorite meal for the rest of the cohort. And chef makes an awful lot of food, and there are lots of leftovers. So it truly is a fully funded gift of time and space. We also are on what I consider like the low end of like a social calendar. So a typical cycle would be you all would arrive together, typically on a Wednesday or a Thursday. We get you settled in after we've either picked you up from the train station or picked you up from a Connecticut airport, or if you've driven into us. And that is your arrival day. The very next day, we have orientation where we get together as a group. We just go over some guidelines of the program. We take you on about a 2-hour site walk of the land and the trails where you'll get to become familiar with the grounds and also experience some of the work that's out on the trails as well and in the grounds. We have a what we call like a spirits and market run. So we also will take our cohorts out into town, and we do that once a week. There is then that evening, there is welcome dinner. And then pretty much over the first weekend, you're getting yourselves settled in, you're getting to know each other. We don't live on the property. None of the staff lives on the property. However, we are just a phone call away. So there's always someone on call Monday through Friday, and then also on the weekends. And the way that we are supported in terms of our staffing is we have campus on staff Monday through Friday, and they are available to you for assistance if you decide that you become inspired when you arrive by the grounds, your cohort, and the fellowship, and you would like to think about making a work on the land, then we have a discussion about that and make some decisions on, you know, where you're thinking about siting a piece. We have 8 studios, and iPark originally was almost, it's farm-like. So 2 of our studios were former chicken coops that we took down and rebuilt as 2 studios. One serves as our creative writing space. Another serves as a multi-media space. Our film artists work in there. And we recently built, about 7 years ago, you'll see in the slideshow, there are 2 twin buildings sited together. Those are 2 of our newest studios. They're built to make large work, and one presently is serving as a second music composition studio. However, if we don't have 2 composers in a studio, we historically program a film or moving image artist, because there are 2 great walls to project work on. So it is, I like to think of our program as very intimate setting. You're literally living and working together in a small campus-like environment. The house that you would live in for 4 weeks is an old farmhouse which was built in the 1840s. So there are 6 bedrooms and 3.5 bathrooms. It's kind of like a modern bed and breakfast. If we do happen to program a 7th or 8th artist, there are several what we call alternative living quarters. 2 of those are inside those 2 new studios. The front of them have a small bedroom that is available for an artist to use their studio as like a sleep and living and workspace. The other offering that we have in terms of community engagement is at the very end of our residency. We have a public open studios where we invite the public to come in. They meet each of you, interact with you, and it's a wonderful way. It really is the culmination of your residency. And then we have a Bon Voyage celebration, a big bonfire down by the pond. And then the next day is departure day.
Joanne, that was perfect. And I have to say, seeing these images, I'm sure everyone who's seeing them, it's like, oh, what an amazing place, what amazing work. And at this time, we're gonna have Francine tell us about the residency at the Newport Art Museum.
This is the Artist in Residency program at the Newport Art Museum, where I'm the curator and director of Curatorial Affairs. And I was asked to talk a little bit about how the residency, what the residency mission is and how it fits in with our museum. And you will see throughout this presentation a number of RISD students and alums, because we've worked a lot with RISD and alums. So we have an overarching mission, basically to support artists. We show contemporary art. We engage with our communities, which there are many of them. And so this residency was really kind of part of our strategic plan to support artists. And it's a really good opportunity for us to bring kind of fresh perspectives to Newport and to our museum. The staff loves it. The communities love it. We have a very vibrant kind of artistic and cultural community that's thirsty for new artists and new ideas. So we really established it to just give an artist kind of the space and solitude and peace to make work. We also hope that the area, some aspect of the area culturally, or the nature, or the museum will kind of inspire that person who comes through the residency. And we now incorporate a community engagement activity with the residency, so that we have artists and residents participate in some kind of either a drop-in workshop, or they might give a talk. We also now have a free community day on Saturdays, and we have been involving our artists in residency artists to do workshops related to those community events. So it's really great in that regard. And we are really interested in promoting diversity. We really want this to be a way of bringing in fresh perspectives, different people, different ages, and different media as well. That's really important. So if you come for a residency at our museum, the residency duration is 1 month. And when you apply, you select whether you're available for April, June, and October. If you can be available for all 3 if you want, or select 2. And that's important because it helps us plan. You get a private studio space that's been cleaned out for you, that has been recently updated, and that is in our museum school. And it's predominantly for people who are doing drawing, painting, and mixed media. So if you're doing something with a different medium, you would need to bring your own kind of equipment. Like if you're doing something photographic based or new media, we did have a new media artist. You have to supply some of those things for yourself. We do have a little apartment. It's a studio apartment in our Gilded Age mansion, the Griswold house, which is really cool. And it has a kitchen, and we have laundry access. We do allow partners to come with artists and stay, because we have, I think it's a queen size bed in this studio apartment, and people have brought partners and spouses and all of that. And then this is just a little image of what our school looks like. So, and that's my son in the photo, but that little black door is where you go into your studio to work, and you have access to that studio around the clock. And then I think one nice thing about, well, one of the many nice things about the residency is that you have access to the museum itself when we're open to the public, or when staff is in. So there are times like Mondays where we're technically closed to the public, but all the staff is there. And so our artists and residents have full access to the collection, the galleries, and also to all of our programs and artists. So this is Jesse Crimes, who did a program with us, and we had an artist in residency at the same time. And so that work was up, and he came and gave a talk. We have a lot of American art in our museum, but we also have a lot of contemporary art. These are some of the contemporary artists that we've shown in the last couple of months. Anna Flores, Bob Dilworth on the right, and the center Zoe Pooley, who was also in this show. Dress code also had Raylon dress in it, so it's kind of a small world. And then you also have, as an artist in residence, access to the collection and the archives, which is something I think artists really love about coming to our museum. And I think many of them, even if their project wasn't directly related to anything in the collection, they just wanted to see stuff while they were there. And we were happy to accommodate that. So Curatorial makes appointments with artists if they want to see anything in collection storage that's not on view in our other buildings. We have about 3,000 objects and prints, drawings, photos, sculptures, textiles. And it's mostly 18th to 20th century American art and contemporary art as well. And we have had some artists as well look into our archives, which are mostly for our own museum and the Old Art Association, but we also have some artists' archives as well stored there too. And then because it's in Newport, we hope and we encourage kind of connections to all the other institutions. There's a great wealth of other places in Newport that might be inspirational to artists or just be interesting places to visit. We have the oldest synagogue in North America in Newport, Charter Synagogue. All the Newport mansions have art and collections in them, and we're on the same street with the Newport mansions, actually. We have Salve Regina University nearby, and they have libraries and collections. And we also have CCRI nearby, and RISD, of course, is an hour away. It's also Newport's a great location in terms of like providing access to Boston, Providence, and other New England cities. I just would say that to get to these other places, you might need a car or some other way of transporting yourself. I would not say that we have a great public transportation system in Newport. So that can be a little bit of a challenge. But our residency, the museum, the studio, the apartment are all in a small campus. And they're all within walking distance to all the markets and restaurants, to the Cliff Walk, which is a coastal walk along the island. We have the Norman Bird Sanctuary, and we're like a mile from all of the beaches. So there's lots of nature and things to be enjoyed on foot if you don't have a car or have difficulty getting around. These are some of our past artists. They were not strictly from Rhode Island by any stretch. We get applicants from all over the country, and we even get some international applicants, which is kind of interesting. So we've had M.A. Bobian, who's from Chicago, and I'd say she's an established artist. And then we had Orlando Almanzo, who's a Cuban artist. Also, I think he has a studio practice on the West Coast, and he came with his wife. And he's probably more emerging to mid-career. And then Emma Welty and Heather McMorty. Emma does Armenian lace weaving and textile work, and Heather does book arts and kind of antiquarian photo processes and printmaking. And I would say she's more emerging and is from Providence. And then we just had Fernanda D'Agostino, who's wonderful. She's a new media artist and does things with
performance and video and large scale projections. And she came to us from California. And so she participated she offered like a little workshop demo during one of our community days. And then she also did a really incredible outdoor performance piece during her residency stay. So this is some of the nitty gritty of the residency. And I've included some collection works throughout the presentation, just so you can see kind of some of the objects you have access to. So our application deadline is coming up pretty soon. And we have the application fee is $40. The window opens usually mid-October if you're interested in applying next year or whatever. And we usually give about, a month to 6 weeks for that. Notification is in mid-January, and we require 1 to 5 images of work made in the past 2 years. There is a question on the application about how might your residency be inspired by working and making work in Newport and being in Newport. We ask for an artist statement, resume, and references as well. And then our support package, so it doesn't cost anything to do this residency. We offer a $600 honorarium, $600 travel stipend, $600 for meals and any food or shopping, because we do not have any capability to offer food or chefs or anything, but there is a kitchen in the apartment. And then $600 for materials, supplies, and equipment. We are looking to increase the support over time. We do have funding for this. And we have increased it over time. It's been something I've been pushing for as somebody who did kind of the academic equivalent of residencies while I was writing my dissertation. So, and these are all collection works we have at the museum. And I was asked also to give some tips on applying. So I think the first one is that I think this question of like how the residency would be inspired by living or making work in Newport is kind of important because we get a lot of applications, and it's helpful to us to kind of know why this particular residency in this particular location would be useful to the individual. And then also, because we hope to engage with the artist who's visiting through an artist talk, a drop-in workshop, or some kind of experience, we do like to see in the application proposal a mention of what that might be. And I will say, like, the most exciting ones are things that are unique workshops that only that artist could really do, or something, some kind of performance or something interesting for our audiences. We do love artist talks too, but in my experience of jurying the applications, sometimes the less inspired sounding applications just promise some kind of public lecture without our having any idea of what the lecture might be about or why it might be unique or interesting for our audience. And just to give you an idea of some of the things we've done in the past, on the bottom left is Emma Welty, who's an artist who came to us from Connecticut, and she taught Armenian lace making at a kind of community free day we did that was all textile based, because we had a textile show also in view at that time. And on the right is the performance that Fernanda D'Agostino, our artist in residence for October, she just finished up. This was an outdoor performance she did of the work that she was working on while she was with us. And there was a dancer from New England who performed in front of this large scale video projection onto one of our buildings, which was really great and really different for us. So we really appreciated that. Let's see, I'm just trying to advance here. Okay. So then the other advice I would give is just to present yourself in a very focused, clear, and confident way when you're applying in the written statements that you offer. Just sound very confident, like you know what you're doing, and you want to come there, and you know how you're going to use your time. And then I'd say submitting really strong images of work is important, because I think the work is probably the most important part of the application. And we have had applications where the images didn't really show the work in a way that we could understand it, or were just not well taken. And it's really hard for us to kind of visualize what the project's going to be like, or what the work is going to be like for that month, and what the artist is all about if we can't understand the images, or they're not good quality images. And I would say write very clearly and keep your audience in mind, and keep the museum's mission in mind. So whatever you can glean from looking at the website of what past residence artists have been like, or what the museum is doing generally, because sometimes we will get people who apply and have certain assumptions about Newport being by the water, or Newport, being only for the wealthy people. And those to us from the inside look like, applications where the person may not fully understand what we're doing, or what the value is of the museum, or what our mission is. So always read the mission statement of the institution you're applying to, or of that particular residency. And by keeping your audience in mind, I want to make the point that the staff actually, well, I'm getting to that. Let's not jump there. The staff is actually the group that juries the applications, and the jurors in that case are usually myself, a couple other people from Curatorial, and then our director of community engagement, director of education, and usually our executive director as well. So you want to bear in mind when you're applying that that's your audience, at least for the application. It's the museum audience as well, but since those are initial people reading and looking at your materials,
think about it from their perspective. If they have an educational interest or a community engagement interest or a curatorial interest, how can you reach them or access them in your application? And then just a final point I want to make with the ice cream is just to give you some inside scoop. If you're attending, it might be helpful. So our residency is relatively new. We have funding for it. It started right before COVID, and then it basically got frozen for COVID. So we had Emma Bobian was our first artist, but she had to delay her residency by like a year and a half or two because of COVID. So we really have only had 2 or 3 cycles of artists in residence so far. And we used to do it individually, as in advertising it, then jurying and picking somebody. Now we jury and pick 3 people for the whole year. It is an individual residency, meaning you're not going to be in a community with a lot of other artists at the museum, but there are artists in our community that you can connect with, and plenty of resources for that. So that being said, it's a good residency to apply to because it's relatively new, because we are open to emerging to established artists, because we are still trying to kind of get more applications, and we have a healthy, robust supply of applications, but it's probably not necessarily in the same category as like a major residency that's been around for decades. So a lot of people are kind of getting to know our residency, and some people have come into the residency and been really excited by what they experienced and have told everyone about it. So now we're getting more word of mouth, of applicants as well. And then also, I found in jurying it was helpful to look at the residents we were taking in terms of media. So we really were trying to get diverse people, and then also diverse approaches to art making. So if you're someone who does kind of an unusual art form or something that might bring something unique to us, that's wonderful. Like Fernanda doing new media and wanting to integrate performance and working with dancers in Providence, that was amazing. And she came from California to do that. Then last of all, when you apply for our residency, you choose which months you want to be with us in. So it's a month-long residency, and you choose April, October, or June. And much like Joanne said, a lot of people want summer, especially in Newport. And it was really actually more challenging for us to fill sometimes the April slot. So if you are flexible about when you can do the residency, I think it benefits your application a little bit, because there's like overall competition to get the residencies, and then there's a scheduling competition, which we have to kind of balance out. So that's just one thing to keep in mind when you apply. And I think that's all I have.
Francine, thank you so much for the presentation from you and what you covered, and Joanne. Really is exciting to know how, close by these great residencies are, what each of you are offering, and the openness to emerging artists as well, and a lot of connections you've had to RISD. And both of them I saw in one of your first slides, Ben Allen, and Ben Allen was a student here who also got a Fulbright, and we worked with Ben on the Fulbright to the Philippines. So it's amazing how interconnected we all are. Just bringing Karen Harris, and Karen, if I can ask you what your residency at iPark meant to you as an artist, and to have that kind of opportunity and gain that really firsthand perspective, that would be great.
Okay, well, it was really, really fabulous. And speaking about connections, I actually met Joanne at the Newport Museum.
Oh. Wow.
So, and that's how my residency kind of started. I met her at a show there with and also Donna Marie Bruton.
Yeah.
It was Nancy Freese, so it was kind of like when you were talking, I was like, oh yeah, that's true. It's my origin story is from the Newport Museum to iPark. Having a residency at iPark was very important to my practice, because I always called myself a closet artist. I did my work for myself. I got inspired, and it kept me from going insane. So I was just a person who just loved doing my art, but I also was a mom. I raised children and had to work and do all those things. And then taking time and space for myself was something I didn't think about until somebody kind of said, "Hey, what are you doing?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm doing stuff, right." And then when I started talking about it with Joanne, and I realized, oh my goodness, I actually have a body of work, and I just need more time to solidify it. So going to iPark was very interesting. I went twice. The first time was a 2-week in April, which is actually a great time to go, especially if you're just kind of coming into figuring out a residency. Like if you're just kind of new at it, it gives you a nice time to kind of ease yourself in, with some of the people that go in April. And so for me, I didn't sleep. I had a schedule, 4 hours of sleep, and I just kept just painting and painting and
Wow.
producing and producing. And it was kind of like, and I was trying out all kinds of things. So, I mean, iPark got a sense of my craziness, and they were like, "Why don't you sleep?" And I'm like, I can't. Nobody ever told me to just do this 100%. Don't worry about laundry. Don't worry about anything. Don't worry about food. So it was a complete blessing and a focused time to really think about where you can actually move your work. Even if you don't even know what the work's going to be, but if you have an idea about a project. And for me, my intrigue was after having that residency, and I was right before it, I was really looking at my own memories of myself, and I was painting banana leaves and growing banana trees and cotton trees and all that stuff. And then it became my subject, and it became something that reminded me of where I came from, my immigrant story, and my art just became a real thing for me. So I have to say, it really helped me to develop a body of work and a practice that I'm very faithful to at this time. So after I leave RISD, I go home and I go to my studio, and then on the weekends it's my studio and doing a lot of work still. And I want to mention the people that I met at the residency, the community that I was able to engage with. I think that although iPark is in a rural part of Connecticut, the people that actually come in for the artist talk, oh my God, they are the most wonderful people. I was like surprised because, people would think that section of Connecticut, you wouldn't see a lot of diversity. And you don't, but you meet a lot of really amazing, engaging people. So I was very inspired by that. I was also inspired by the actual cohorts that I've had there, and I stay in touch with a lot of them, a person from England and a person from Canada, just amazing people, doing yoga in the common room. So I cooked curry chicken for them and made it really spicy, and then they were, they'll remember that.
We know your food contribution now, Karen.
Yeah. And it was funny because I couldn't find Jamaican curry because I'm in the middle of this area. So it was kind of an interesting curry mixing with Chinese and Indian curry. So, but still good. So all that to say that it was a really wonderful program, and if anybody has any other questions, I'm here to answer them too.
What an amazing array of information and work and inspiration. Whenever I do these, I get super inspired. So I hope everyone attending tonight was. And again, just so grateful to both of you and to Karen and to Jason for making this happen. And Karen was instrumental in bringing both of you here. And I'm so grateful to Karen. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.
Mhm.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye.
See
Take
you.
care. Thank you.
Bye.